This isn't a self-help show. It's a soul remembering. I'm Cynthia Sharpe, educator, trauma-informed practitioner, proud mom to a son with Down syndrome, and vice president of Additional Needs Incorporated. I created Down to Heal because too many of us are told to survive and never taught how to heal. This is where we change that. Every other week, I sit down with parents, practitioners, neurodivergent voices, and body-based wisdom keepers. We talk about what really heals: nervous system regulation, somatic truth, community care, and the stuff you don't hear in the mainstream. Because healing isn't talked down, it's shared, it's messy, it's sacred. If you've lived it, studied it, questioned it, or been broken by it, this is the space for you. Down to Heal is a space I wish I had, honest, whole, and held. We're not here to fix. We're here to feel, reflect, and rise together. Listen on Spotify or YouTube. Let's get down to heal. Today, we're stepping into a space where the veil feels thin and the lessons are undeniable. An additional needs diagnosis is often framed through clinical data, charts, and limitations. This conversation invites us to consider a deeper story, one that looks beyond what's measurable and into meaning, purpose, and growth. Joining me is Laurie Barraco, founder of the Mystical Moon and an intuitive advisor with more than 20 years of experience supporting individuals and families through mind, body, and spirit. Together, we explore soul agreements, pre-birth awareness, and the subtle ways children can guide us, not through words, through their presence, sensitivity, and connection. We talk honestly about the human experience of caregiving, the exhaustion, the grief, the guilt, the celebration of small wins, and the quiet moments of grace. If you've ever felt that your child is also one of your greatest teachers, or found yourself asking, why me? This conversation is here to meet you with compassion. Hello, Laurie. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you for joining me on Down to Heal, where we'll have this wonderful conversation of the spiritual realm and the additional needs kiddos, and a bit of my experience with you and your gifts, and what transpired and how we can actually help the additional needs community. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So can you please give the audience a background of who you are and what you do?
Okay, so I am Laurie Barraco, and I am many things, as many of us are. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I am the creator and founder of the Mystical Moon, which is a spiritual wellness center of mind, body, spirit. I am an intuitive advisor, and I work with many clients and have for over 20 years. I have a brick and mortar store, and that's just kind of like me in a nutshell.
I met you through a different spiritual store at the time that you were working at, and we connected. You were doing readings for me at much more professional readings. I hadn't had Jack yet. And then when unexpectedly I came to you during reading, you were like, who is Jack? And I remember looking at you going, I have no idea. And you insisted, like, no, you know, who is Jack? I had to stop and think, because we hadn't had him, and we had been trying for so long that I kind of had forgotten his name and that his energy would be coming, and you were calling it out. So how cool is that?
That is so cool. And I'm always surprised and amazed at how spirit works through other people, right? I totally forgot about that because it's been so long, and I've known you probably for over 20 years.
Isn't that right?
Yeah.
So you helped guide me into recognizing little signs of him coming And then you helped guide me into accepting Jack just as he was. Though we didn't know that he was going to be with Down syndrome. And right now it's not important. Yet for maybe a new family coming into the diagnosis that it wasn't diagnosed in utero, even on a spiritual basis, what kind of advice do you have as a spiritual guide to help a additional needs family come into acceptance?
And that is it really is about acceptance and not having your, giving yourself permission to have your human emotions. But I can I just go back a little bit with your sharing
Please.
about how he started to introduce himself before, right? So then we think about the plan and what is supposed to be, right? Because so many of us wonder what we did wrong, or is there something that could have been done to prevent what happened, and we want to place a blame. But then with his spirit coming through beforehand, letting you know, hey, that seed is planted and we have soul agreements, and that this is part of the journey here in this lifetime. And what I would say is, oh my gosh, there are so many different things, right? Taking care of yourself with parents who are going through the motions and the questions, and again, the blaming, should we, and the regret, or shouldn't have done this. But it really is about self-care first and foremost, and having a really good support system in place, right? Faith, connection to spirit, honoring your emotions, and doing some research. Because I know you, Cynthia, you are a researcher. So you just started going through everything. So what is this? What is that? What are the different avenues, traditional and non-traditional and holistic? So I think the first thing is to pause, to give yourself time, patience, and grace with accepting how things are unfolding.
I think grace was the hardest part, because I definitely did blame myself because I didn't know that I was a genetic carrier. So there are 3 different types of Down syndrome. And I don't think that most people realize that. We just realize that, okay, the zygote comes and sometimes it doesn't split correctly. And therefore there's 3 triplicates of trisomy 21, hence Down syndrome. There's also a de novo, which it's where the husband and the wife, or the male and the female, come together, and it makes it anew. And then there's the Robertsonian translocation, where one of the parents is a carrier, and I had no idea I was a carrier. So then I really took it personally, thinking, what have I done in our marriage to now I've changed my husband's life and my own? What is our future? And I felt a lot of shame during that time. And mind you, if Jack is listening, I want you to know how proud I am of you. Like, this does not take away the feelings and the gift that you have brought me. I do want to share and be conscientious of those parents who may be feeling that, and hence why I'm sharing this. It is not where I stayed. It is where I was.
And it's the journey, right? It's part of that journey, right? Yeah.
And I was grateful for coming to you and being very vulnerable. Like, why didn't you know so that I could know? And I did it with an energy worker as well, who was working along the path. Like, how did we not get this? And obviously, and thank God I had read Carolyn Miss's Sacred Contracts, because that 700-page book really taught me a lot about okay, this may be your wish and your desire, yet there's a higher plan, and there's still free will, right? You get to choose whether or not you're going to pursue the life that has been given to you, or you're going to choose another. And choosing another just was not in in the cards for me. It was just, I was so impassioned to even though I was having those regretful or shameful feelings, I was so impassioned to make a completely different reality at the exact same time. And how I lived in that duality, I don't know if you have anything to impart on that and what parents may feel.
Well, I feel that you definitely are explaining and sharing so eloquently, right? There is, and what I'm seeing with you too. So it's hard for me not to share what I receive in the other realms as well. It's like a marathon, like a triathlon, right? There's the endurance part, there's stopping, there's resting, there's nurturing yourself, replenishing, and then the next trek, because it is there are different waves and different parts of the journey, chapters, right? With all of this. And I'm going to go back to the support is really important, and again, back to the soul. Jack chose you and Doug as parents to support his journey, to share, to inspire, a mom who is going to research, a dad who's going to do the same things and support and nurture and help integrate this beautiful soul with society and empower him so that he can do what he came here to do.
Definitely. I mean, little by little, he coached me along. It was unbelievable what I experienced. He was nonverbal, and I shared this in a previous episode with Granny Annie, who lived downstairs. And anyway, he was sitting in his high chair, nonverbal, not being able to speak, yet telepathically he communicated to me like, okay, you're having your adult temper tantrum, like, Mom, you're better than this. And it was just so like, oh my gosh, like my own son is disciplining me. Like, I'm the parent and he's acting like the parent right now. And I'm just like having my moment, just being upset. Like, we're going through this feeding process, and feeding can be so difficult with the additional needs community. And it can create such discord because eating is such a communal thing, right? And it's like, I just want to nurture you, and being motherly, and especially a Latin mom, I just wanted to nurture and be able to say, you're going to eat everything. And he wasn't there yet. And I was having my moment. And little by little, he coached me. Do you find that when people come in with additional needs kids, that they're being guided as well by their kids in that way, in that nonverbal telepathic way?
Absolutely. And it's really stepping outside of the box and being okay to be different and take the regular routines, kind of toss them out the window for what works. And I think that what I've noticed too, I not think, but I know I've noticed, is that they are trying to be in the moment, to be present in the moment, and to not go down that pathway of, is this how it's always going to be? Because it's again, it's a chapter, it's a part of the journey. And to be in the moment really does help you ground yourself and not to get too overwhelmed of the fear of like, now what happens, right? And how are we ever going to go out? There goes social, our social interactions, never going out to dinner, this, that, and the other thing. But what I've noticed is what really has helped them is being in the moment and so navigating and pivoting as is needed.
And I have to say, like, that is so true. And yet, like, that is the greatest gift that I wish the rest of the community would take in, right? Because I think that, and I shared it with my dad just recently, like, I think that the general population stresses too much about unimportant things. And our kids are really here to say, what is of value?
Exactly.
So, okay. So what about like guides and angels? I know we work in that realm. Do you find that the additional needs community is surrounded in that regard? Parents as well? Is it specific to certain diagnoses? Do you feel like, we'll start there and we'll go into the different diagnoses. And
I think that it really depends on the soul's journey. So we are talking about souls and soul groups, and chances are there is a team that is working with those in that inner soul human family, right? Because here we have an identity or personality, which is just a small smidge of who we are. And that personality is connected to the soul of the essence of the soul, as well as helpers, the angelic realm, guides, masters. There probably is a lot of, like, what I have noticed is a lot of nurturing, supportive energy coming in. And then there is this strong warrior type of spiritual influence that comes in, like guardian, protector energy, to protect the person, to help the person, like the parent, move through where these areas where they're struggling, and they have to be an advocate for themselves and for their child or their loved ones, right? Because this is not just children, these are sometimes siblings, or and also adoptive situations too.
I think that was the hardest part for me, was stepping up as an advocate, because I was so used to being mild mannered and okay, quiet, and I'll but speaking up for myself was difficult. Now, do it for my son, totally there.
Yeah.
Totally. And he definitely helped guide me into speaking up for myself. Do you find that for all individuals?
Yes, absolutely. And so when we see them with those who are not, I want to kind of go back because I didn't quite completely answer your question. So when we see them looking and connecting or laughing, they are connecting with our crossover loved ones. They're connecting with the spirit team, which is a collection of guides, the angelic realm, crossed over loved ones, probably an ascended master or two, and the other soul essences to help to support them. And some of them have even, pointed, and they can see them. Yeah.
So do you feel like different diagnoses resonate at different levels? In other words, like for me, and this is my own intuitive processing, is like children with Down syndrome feel more earthy. Children with autism feel much more on a higher plane. It feels less grounded, but just not, neither is less or more. It just feels like it's at a different place. Do you feel that as well?
Absolutely. So we could say Downs is more like elemental, right? Like earth, air, water, fire. And so yes, and autistic, yes, I definitely have noticed that it feels more like ethereal, right? Like, so the angelic realm.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I was trying to put a word to it and really understand what that is. But do you feel like one of the reasons why autistic individuals may have some of the behaviors that they do is they feel the pain so much greater here that they just wish that people would understand how lovely it is elsewhere to bring that in.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. We could maybe see it as like a filter or a buffer. So that buffer, that filter is very thin. So sounds are very loud, harshness and as the environment, anger, the feelings, they really do feel that. It's almost like it's like a filling with that sound or some metal on a filling. It's just that abrasive. It's abrasive to them. And I do believe both and all special needs, they are here to connect the physical and the spiritual realms and to help the human overcome challenges, right? Perseverance and learning about community, and most importantly, unconditional love as well, right? So, but I do feel that the autistic individual they have that very thin filter, and so their sensitivities, not just psychic, but their sensitivities are like high, dialed all the way up. For sure.
I couldn't agree more. And it's interesting to go back to one of the statements that you shared, was it's a marathon. And I've worked with children with cancer and had to coach, moms along and say, you are running a marathon. You're running it right now like a sprint, and you're going to tire out quick.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take a breath and realize. And then there's the whole consciousness as well. So when we think about that, um, there's a whole collective regarding the diagnosis, what the reality is, even in cancer, in Down syndrome or autism. What do you say to those who want to break out of the mold?
To break out of the mold, you said, or the
Uh, the mold, right? That consciousness of like this is the reality of like what a Down syndrome child would be able to
mm,
attain, or what an
mm.
autistic individual can, versus what the individual can.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's unique into each individual. We all came here with gifts, right? And so it's all about belief systems, right? Now, there is a little bit of being realistic, right? Like, I'm not going to be 6 foot as an individual. However, I think that if you can keep hope alive and see this as a challenge and to take that time to celebrate every time you make it, there's even a small victory is a victory, and that I think helps us with confidence and breaking through those limitations, is to still have goals, don't give up hope, be realistic and practical, have a foot, 1 foot on the ground at least, and then keep your faith strong, but celebrate the small victories, and know that the limitation a lot of times is our belief systems, and if there's always a way to get around things too, right? So whether it's a traditional pathway, holistic, and sometimes traditional medicine and processes work as well, and research, there's always groundbreaking work that's being done. And we talk about consciousness. So there are different egregores, which are thought forms, right? And so there are religious egregores, political egregores, diagnoses, and they are belief systems, and they have consciousness. They are things. The more we're tipping the scales, the more people that bring, and I got the chills, that bring in hope and are willing to break outside of the box and create different, like take the mold and just change it. Just don't even have a mold, right? Let it be more fluid. The more people that do it, it does that shift and move into that consciousness and belief system and celebrate the victories. It changes, it tips the scales. Right. So like you think about where things were 30 years ago, we weren't having these conversations really. Right. And so the scales of reality or consciousness are shifting and changing with those
And that's
egregores.
exactly what we're doing with Down to Heal. So thank you. That's exactly the whole passion and the whole fluidity of what we're trying to create in expediting learning and expediting consciousness, both for parent and for child. And it's not just within the additional needs community, but to expand beyond, right?
Yeah.
Because we're so much more alike than we are different.
Yes, absolutely.
So do you remember me coming in? Because I worked in your space, and it was right before um, Jack actually got diagnosed with insomnia. And insomnia is rampant within the additional needs community, right? Trying to think outside the box. And I remember calling the pediatrician going, I'm desperate. Like, she wasn't giving me any tools other than to give him a comfort toy, to have like a certain pattern of going to a bed routine, etc. Yet the exhaustion was real, and I was just desperate. Like, I need a reading so I know what to go ahead and do. I had no idea how sensitive energetically he was, and how attuned he was, that would be also playing into his sleep deprivation and therefore ours. Do you find that children speak to the other side often?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, that's where they're looking, and they remember, right, that they were just there. Right. And so here they're like, what the heck is what is wrong with these people, and their energy and all that. But I do believe that they still have a strong connection and still see helpers, loved ones, source, God, creator, other galaxies, right? You think about that. You think it's not just heaven. Heaven is, oh my God, like we could go down that rabbit hole, but the universe, other planets, other places, other dimensions, other points in time, past lives, right? So yes, I do believe that children have that ability, a very small filter. And then as time goes on, we tend to forget where we came from, because it can hold us back. We wouldn't be able to focus here, right? We have that veil of forgetfulness that is put on us. And as we get older and with society, it becomes, we start to forget more certain aspects.
So how do we keep that going in our children so that they don't lose that consciousness of that reality and integrate it? Because that was something that I had spoken with you about, like all that I've done to ground Jack and to really help his ability to be here and present and to think through biofeedback and more. I've often wondered, has that changed, right? That groundedness, do you in a sense give one up for the other? And does the individual do that? And does every individual go through that?
I think it's a unique life path, natural progression, I would say, right? Just as some people it's easy for them to remember their dreams, right? That is the spiritual makeup of that person or that consciousness, right? The traits that they would have is already. But I think teaching children how to learn to quiet their minds through meditations to help settle themselves when they're overwhelmed, that does help them listen to their thoughts and not be so influenced and overwhelmed by their environment, to learn how to separate what's going on out there as opposed to what's going on within here. I do think some maybe have a natural connection to the other side. Some it's through animals, some it's through music, right? So we think of creative energy, that's creator energy. And so it's artwork for some, music for others. So we already have natural tendencies coded within our personality and probably our DNA, right? So supporting where that child is leaning into, where we notice that they're more settled, that is a way to help them keep that connection to their spirit stronger and the communication open.
It was interesting. I had taken him to the dentist, and there was a dentist right by your space. And we both wanted to go into Mystical Moon. And he's looking around. All of a sudden, he picks up a black stone and asked me right now what it was. I cannot tell you. But he looked at it, and I just remember what it did. He said, "Now I feel complete." And it was communication with pets. And I was like, oh, you've been trying to communicate and Marshmallow's been coming to you. Now you feel complete. Like I had no idea, but it was just reading what it did. It just totally made sense. So that's kind of an unusual, how do I say that? Modus of operandi, like a communication, right? Being able to sense something and do that. Do you find that because of the additional needs community being much more sensory, they can feel things, that frequency in the stones and more?
And that makes sense, because if they're more earthy and elemental, the rocks, the stones, the minerals are of the earth, and it's vibration. So they're tuning into the vibration of that crystal or herb has. So yes, I definitely have noticed that, they're going to lead us. So you pay attention and you notice, right? Just like with
right?
animals, the same thing, right? If they're a little off and they're not really welcoming a situation, they are connected and all of their senses are turned on. Same with special needs. And we're not saying that children who aren't special needs in that way don't have that. I think that it's a natural thing within us, but it's hyper turned up, I've noticed for them. And that's part of their support system. So we talk about angels and guides. There's also the ability to sense into different frequencies of objects, people, places, and things.
So would you say if the parent is quite intuitive and or empathic, the child tends to be amplified in that regard as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So going back to the whole exhaustion part, you got to see me absolutely exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you say, how does that exhaustion impact our spiritual connection? Like that tuning in and that ability to know and to feel centered and hopeful.
Well, I noticed for you that you didn't stop. It was like, I'm not giving up. And then you had support system that said, like, look over here, look over there. So in the moments of trying to bring yourself into the moments, let me just calm down and just try to think and let some of that guidance come through. So our helpers, our spirit is going to continue to drop in lifelines. We just need to be able to have those moments where we stop, we pause, and oh, look, that happened 5 times. I guess it's a sign. Maybe I should look into that. Right? So
Right.
pay attention to the repetitious signs. And back to the helpers. We all have helpers. We are not here without lifelines that are being presented for us. So pay attention. I like to say the rule of 3. If something pops up 3 times, please pay attention. And the other part of that is the surrender and asking for, like, I give up. I need some help. Throw me a bone. And so then those signs start to come in a little bit louder, right? The pebble, the rock, the house. And then hopefully we pay attention. And what is to be is what takes place, right? There is the divine plan of that. So in that moment, yeah, you're having human moments, but it brings you to the edge and then something breaks and there's that surrender. Some of this is about being able to be open to receive and letting go of the perfectionism that we have within ourselves. And sometimes the theme of the interaction with the help that we receive is that we receive and someone is giving and they want to give. They want to share what they've learned. That's what I felt like that's where you're at. So there are people who are receivers, right? So when we have a gift and it's like, I just want to help you. And then if we're saying, no, that we feel like it's a sign of weakness or I don't want to be a burden, that we're kind of preventing that karmic flow and that soul contract experience of the giver and the receiver. Right. Of course, we do have to put in there. Sometimes there are boundaries that need to be put into place there. But right now, you're probably in both places, receiving and giving. Right. So you're sharing. You want to share the knowledge you have gained. And then there is the receiving of the connection and the validation that this feels so good on a soul level. But part of that exhaustion of what you went through, that is that surrendering and just saying, okay, like I can't figure it out. When we're in that moment, it's really hard to think clearly. When we're
Right.
overwhelmed, we're tired, we're cranky, our auric field, the layer of energy around the body, is frayed. It has holes, so you're leaking life force energy, and then it gets complicated because then you're super sensitive and you're feeling like other people's thoughts and energies, and it just is like it brings you to a breaking point.
It does if you allow it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And I love what you were saying, that the 3s, because synchronicity, that's why I named my business Synchronicity, because it just kept on coming in and I couldn't avoid the signs. So let's go there. Synchronicities versus like coincidences. People like to use, oh, that's such a coincidence. Like, no, right? So since you're here, please, can you explain the difference?
I don't know if there is a difference, right? I don't know. I think it's your belief system, right? And sometimes people wonder, am I making it up or it's a coincidence? Okay, but if it's a coincidence, why not look at it? Right? Why not look at it? And I think that, we all have, okay, there are areas where it's not a sign is just a sign. It's not a big thing. Sometimes a sign means so much more. But I do love the threes, and because that way it's getting your attention. Coincidence, well, somewhere it's orchestrated. It's still orchestrated. So coincidence is still souls interacting in the other realms to make something happen. It takes a lot for something to happen. And even if it's just a fleeting moment. So I see them as interchangeable. And I think people have different definitions for things, but I do think synchronicities and coincidences are pretty much interchangeable. It's where something, what is to be, just as I mentioned, what is supposed to be will be. If something got away, it's not meant to be for the highest and best good of all parties involved.
Right. And I think the synchronicities, at least in my own perspective of how it kept on coming. So I want to say it was almost like in plethora with Jack. It just felt like spirit was, even though he wasn't communicating on a verbal basis, spirit through him was definitely communicating and saying, like, this is who you need to meet, and this is why. And it was like a constant guidance, and the time and the space coming together, like Carl Jung talks about, was definitely present, because energy doesn't die, right? Albert Einstein taught us that, right? And so I look at Jack as like, wow, we've obviously been together in a previous life. And I look at my husband and I feel that as well, that connection. And I feel that we're very fortunate and rare, because my husband and I have been married for over 20 years. And in the additional needs community, that's just unheard of. Divorce rates are extremely high versus it's 85% or higher. Yeah. And so for us to stay guided and stay connected, I applaud spirit for that guidance and to walk us through. So what would you say to offer parents who feel like invisible, right? How to feel connected in states of caregiving, or how to call themselves out of the drudges of caregiving?
I do think that it goes back to community, and not all communities within the community are meant for everybody, right? So there is a plethora there are many different communities. So I would say looking outside. You got to change some things up, because if we're doing the same thing over and over, we're not going to have a different outcome, right? And I share this with all clients, that if you want to change an element in your life and you're doing the same old things, we need to change it up. Go to a different Publix, take a different way to work, change up your routine, and don't have the same thing for breakfast. You need to change things up. And I do think community is really important, and finding the one, not all, you don't have to join everything, just the ones that support you in that moment. And here's back to surrender, asking spirit to put you in alignment with the help, the community, the processes, the lifelines to help you get unstuck. And that's back to being in the moment, right? And also paying attention to what's lighting me up, what am I excited about these days, and what is really weighing heavy on my mind and my heart. And sometimes it's participating in those activities that bring light to the same old, right? So it's going to fill up your cup. So it could be music, it could be artwork, it could be reading a book. Those things that feed your soul bring in light, and they raise your vibration, and that carries over to the difficult stuff, because nobody wants to go through the same old thing, doing the same thing, where it's like, this is really difficult and you don't have something to look forward to. You participate in the activities and do the things that feed your soul. That changes the dynamic within that relationship, whether it's with yourself, whether in home. And then I do want to go into the home space. So that's important as well, changing up the energy. So some people light a candle, Some people light sage incense. You can do different things like taking a bell, a drum, doing something to shift some of that energy and let it open a door or window and get it out of there, because we all have stress, we all have anxiety, and that does help too. Changing up the energy in your home too. When you're vacuuming or sweeping, sweep that energy out the door. Do things to change your home environment as well. That can help.
I absolutely agree with you that I found myself enjoying cleaning very much. And when cleaning wasn't enough, I would take kiddo and I would be like, okay, let's go to the park because we need to ground. Like
Yes.
nature was just so cathartic for both of us,
Mhm.
and a place of rejuvenation and coming back to center and kind of um, shedding the energy that we didn't want because, well, nature's so healing,
Yes.
right?
And they're so connected to the elements, earth, water, air, fire, right?
Yes. So, how do we protect our kids since we're talking about like the energy of the home? How do we protect our kids from like either other people's energies or energies coming into the home that we may not be prepared for,
So it depends
that
on
are
the
ready
age.
to communicate?
Yeah, and it depends on, the age of the child, right? So as we have routines we do it for ourselves first. I think that helps them. And I don't know, if a lot of people are familiar with cord cutting. So cutting, intentionally saying, I'm cutting the cords of energy or the connections that are stressing me out right now, that situation that I feel is toxic, that's overwhelming me. I'm disconnecting myself from that. I send it back to the light, right? Could be driving, could be going to Publix, whatever it is. But I do believe it starts with the parent and being mindful of their energy, and then children start to notice what you do, and then having dialogue as they get older of what's going on. You're feeling overwhelmed. You know what's bothering you. Where are you feeling it? Like a lot of times they have tummy aches. That's being an empath, and that's absorbing the energy around them. And it doesn't always mean the energy's bad. It could be different from theirs, and so that can be overwhelming too, right? It's just a different vibe feel that they're getting. So it starts with the parents, I believe. And then as they get older, we watch and we observe, oh, they're overwhelmed. This certain music or this certain place, the smells throw them off. Okay. So I'm going to do what I can to try not to bring them there if I don't have to. Right. And then as they get older, we teach them to pay attention to their body and to try to, some of them are nonverbal, but so then we just observe them and talk to them, and then telepathically continue to explain to them with our thoughts as we speak the words, send those visuals. So you're speaking it, but you're also sending the visual of what's going on or how they can support themselves or what I'm doing for you. It might be that as a parent, I'm envisioning white light around you and loving energy, supporting you and putting you in a cocoon. And in that way. So that's part of it. And then as they get older, we could tell them that, if this rock helps you feel secure like a worry stone, we'll put it in your pocket. And you tell this rock, your job is to help me feel safe and connected, and just and you could even say, give your cares and your worries to this rock or this piece of paper, whatever it is. And then we'll change that energy. And then of course, like the elemental part, like you were saying, going outside, getting them to connect with nature. If they can help with plants or adding natural herbs to the food, even cooking as part of that too, right? Putting that good energy into their food.
So I love that you were sharing the whole telepathic, because I I know sometimes, especially with a child who has different behaviors than we're expecting or than we want, it's sometimes challenging as a parent to really stay connected with the child and to want to be around the child and to
Mhm.
accept a portion of ourselves because they're us, right?
Mhm.
To be able to actually feel like I want to communicate and have the energy to communicate telepathically, and that I do believe that what I'm communicating telepathically you're receiving. Do you find that to
Mhm.
be challenging for people who are not very spiritual?
It can be like, well, that's just mind reading or whatever, right? That could be. Not much you could do about that though, right? And so yeah.
Well, I think of it as practice.
Yeah.
And I try to tell people, like just practice. I took your course, which I absolutely loved, and I used it with my husband. He was my practice. Okay, so let's practice being telepathic. I'll send this, and okay, let's see if you receive it. And we definitely did that. We had a connection prior to, being married, hence why I married him. And then it's definitely amplified in that regard. And it was so funny. I was at the Salt Grotto this last weekend on Friday with him, and the person was putting some essential oils on my wrist, and I already knew like she wanted it on my wrist, and she was going for another drop. And I said, okay, so on my third eye. And she asks Doug, does she always read minds? And I went, yeah, except for his. No, that's not true, because we get it. We automatically do it. Okay, so thinking about that and thinking of like the herbs, the crystals, when should we start teaching our kids about like the energy of our food and bringing and calling in what we want into our food so that it nourishes the individual?
I think right away, as soon as they're born, even, with breast milk. And I think that again, it's that telepathic connection, right? And just showing that this food is going to support you. I feel like you're going, oh, I wish I would have thought of that before.
Totally,
When he wasn't
totally.
eating.
Yes, it was so difficult and so challenging in the very
Yeah.
beginning that I was so stressed. I dried out and I felt such guilt, right? And I wanted that connection, and he was burning through so much trying to get
Mhm.
him ready for open heart that, and
Mhm.
I was worrying so much. So
Yeah.
both of our energies were just depleted. Yet when we came together, he just had this really unbelievably sweet, grounding energy. And I loved having him and falling asleep on my chest. And I know like the nurses and the doctors would say, don't co-sleep. That was the only way that it like helped center us both.
Mhm. Mhm.
So thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is part of that bonding, that nurturing, bonding connection ritual that soothes both of you. So here he was healing you as well, and vice versa. But back to the food part, just from the beginning, just this is the connection, whether it's breast milk or whether it's a bottle, and telling the child. And our words have vibration. So there's the telepathic part, but then also our words have vibration, right? And so
I
this
do.
is good for your energy, for big strong bones, give you nourishment. This can help with your immune system. And some people put their hands over their food and charge it. I'm putting good energy into it, and then as they get older, we expand upon it even more. So I do think that it starts with those who are around the child, with the influence, right? So, and it's not too late to start now. So there probably are people who think that, okay, now this is where I'm at on the journey. I wish I knew this before, but once you know, you know. And sometimes it's part of the journey to make it to a certain place, to have a different perspective, a different way of doing things, and slowly integrate it as well. And with anyone, with adults as well, it's important to take your time with integrating something new, introducing it. So I think also there is the learning curve of adjusting the way you treat food and your relationship with nurturing. It takes time. So and I do think with special needs too, they like consistency. So we want to slowly change it and start talking about different conversations.
I love that. Absolutely. And I think that is also a challenge for adults, not
Yes.
just our kids, right?
Yep.
And I have that a lot in my practice where people have a challenging relationship with food.
Mm-hmm.
It, across the border, they either see it as medicinal, which is great, or other people just have like, I can't eat that, right? There are times that you're going to be in a restaurant that, well, they're not serving everything that you'd wish that it would be completely healthy or
Mm-hmm.
whatever else, or someone has cooked something. I do believe that um you can change the energy of it through an influence.
Mm-hmm.
Just because the human field energy can travel far faster than I believe it, even an EEG is what I was just reading the other day, that the human energy field can actually go in far faster and resonate far faster than an EEG. How cool is that?
It's so cool. So mind over matter in a way, right? But then we do need to remember that we have inherited certain belief systems that are undercurrents and that are part of our uh, makeup, right? And so
Right?
there's that as well. And so maybe this is how it was done way back, way back. And so that was passed down, but it's never too late to change it up. And maybe we are the ones to bring an updated, more conscious version of nurturing and food and how we take care of ourselves, and realizing that we know we're so much more than this. Yet in the moment, we don't remember that all the time, right?
I absolutely agree. And I think that transforming transgenerational trauma, as you're speaking it, that ancestral lineage, that trauma from generation to generation that coexists in our cells and literally resonates there, is by far greatest challenge. What do you recommend for those who are seeking to go ahead and do that? And how do they pace themselves? Because that's a marathon all on its own.
Yeah, absolutely. And for some people, going to a facilitator, a healer, that works for them. Some people, it doesn't work for them. So do your research, right? Look around, and if you are going to go to someone, if you're thinking, well, I want to work with a practitioner, research, get a referral, really do your part, and make sure and be clear with yourself too. What do I want to work on? Because there's so many different things to work on, and the pacing yourself with that, because it's like when people do detoxes, if you're detoxing everything, your body is like, you're defeating what you just did, because then your body's going into, oh my gosh, right, into overload. The same thing on an emotional consciousness level with trauma and changing the generational belief systems and the trauma that's been passed down. So do your research, but also like really sit with yourself. What is it that I really would like to tackle or work on right now that I feel it would be really important for me? What is my spirit suggesting I look at? And then start to feel around, ask around, and see what might be best for you.
I absolutely agree. So there are therapists who actually
Yes.
do assist with that.
Mm-hmm.
And therapists may or may not be the thing for a person like us.
Yep.
You know, sometimes talk therapy just isn't it. So like an
Right.
energy worker can
Mm-hmm.
access it far faster without doing the work. Yet energy is energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So depending upon that practitioner and that alignment, I think that can be positive and sometimes cannot.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, do your due diligence.
Yes.
So you got to witness our journey from like chaos and acclimation into a diagnosis to what we're doing today. What do you wish for the additional needs community that, or what did you see that you wish for the additional needs community?
I feel like there needs to be a hub. A hub where there's what's the word I want? Filtered out, vetted, not vetted,
Mhm.
but where people can go for trusted resources, where, like if they have Yelp. I wish there
That's
was
what
a
we're doing.
Okay,
That's
see,
what
that's what I
Additional
would.
Needs Inc. is
Yeah,
doing.
yeah,
Good,
that's what.
thank you. We're on
Yeah,
the path.
I like a Yelp. It's Yelp for special needs, and I wish that there was something for that, because again, there is a plethora of information out there, um, and I am such a strong advocate for referrals and the sharing of people's experience, right? Because this is so sensitive. This is so important. And they're well-meaning people who maybe don't have the experience to handle some of the heavy stuff. That's why, like, past life regressions and the ancestral lineage drama, you want someone who's trained, that has experience behind them, that they're going to be able to support you, because some of the stuff is really heavy duty. So my wish is that there's more information out there that people can trust, that it's been checked out, like that there are testimonials and people who can share their experience, and that it continues to grow, and there's more more of a holistic approach, and traditional as well. I feel like they can definitely blend together, and it's really important. So that's my wish.
That's exactly what we're going to be doing. So thank you for,
Oh,
you
you're
didn't know
welcome.
you were
You're
confirming,
welcome.
but you're confirming.
Yeah. There's your
God,
synchronicity or coincidence. Yeah.
exactly. Right here on air.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what, when it comes to like the additional needs community, where do you think it can go if it all comes together and unites? That's one of our visions,
Mhm.
as Additional Needs Inc., right?
Mhm.
And me as a practitioner wants to go ahead and create that hub of the practitioners and the gurus that can walk alongside because of the experience, who
Mhm.
are much more balanced, because
Mhm.
I've had practitioners who have um seemed balanced in the beginning, and then something happens and just flips, and it's just like,
Yeah.
whoa, where did that come from?
Mhm.
So I'll pose that to you. Knowing what could possibly happen if the additional needs community came together, what do you see as as who you are?
I would love to see it where there's support for the caretaker, the parent, right? There's that support, and it's not fixing it all, so it all looks the same, and not, and where there's acceptance, where there's more support for a parent, there's tool, there's counseling, guidance in that way, and helping those special needs individuals blend in beautifully with society, yet keeping their uniqueness and getting rid of some of the stigma, right? And celebrating them and welcoming them more so, right? And yeah.
And as you're saying that, like, I felt that that was not just for the additional needs community. Like, I
Yeah.
see it for like eating disorders. I
Yes.
see it for like the anxiety and um the depression that children are going through, that at a higher rate nowadays, because of social media and because of our political landscape, and just how toxic, having one person have a different philosophy from another. It's like that lack of acceptance. And man, if we all came together, wouldn't this world be a better place?
Absolutely. And the thing that also I know with its children and special needs, they definitely call it out the way it is. And so many adults are living in denial and pretending that this doesn't bother them, or that this is the norm. And so these children are telling us, your energy doesn't lie. Right? Or they're calling you out on it, and they are encouraging us to be better versions of ourselves, for meeting our potential and aligned with our potential. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And it's interesting because we just went to an open house last night, and I have found, me being sensitive, um, going into the additional needs community, which I was in a special ed classroom last night, meeting the teachers, also being in with the other additional needs parents. When I came home, I thought, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm dealing with it fine. And the way I slept, I was like, I didn't deal with that so well at all. And I was like, I forgot to do my own ritual before I walked in. I was just like pressed for time, like, oh, I was supposed to be there and I got to be there now. And totally forgot about all that is. So what can we do or in walking into situations like that? How do you recommend people just kind of like recenter or clear their fields so that they can move forward and be much more in resonance?
To take a moment, we go from activity to activity, and we're wearing different hats with all of that, right? My driving hat is different than going into, I don't know, a meditation. So if we were to be more present in the moment and take a moment to, okay, center myself. I know that there are a lot of people in there. Let me take a breath and put myself in that bubble and try to be optimistic and leave my grumpiness from the car ride or whatever behind me. And so I could be present and see if there's anything unique and different for me there, right? There is something too that I think this takes a little planning, maybe, but if you think about your day and the activities that we have going on, there's certain clothes, there's certain colors that we wear that we feel more comfortable with. Then I think if we it took more notice and took the actions for that, that would help us with these transitional situations, because that's a transition going from the car, I'm running late, then you bring that energy in there, you forget to breathe and put that bubble around you, because there are some parents who are overwhelmed, there's a nervousness, the teachers are nervous, it's an all new experience, and how is this going to look? But that transitional from activity, that transition time and mindset from activity to activity can really help us. And if we can kind of map some things out with the clothes we wear, the aromas we maybe put on our wrists, right? Maybe a bracelet or a necklace or something that we feel comfortable, like gearing up for the job ahead.
That's so funny that you bring up the color, because I remember going to a color puncturist and she's like, so I could tell like you needed a lot of energy today. You're wearing black. And I was like, She goes, black is all colors, right? So you needed a lot of energy. And I was like all in black, one of my favorite colors to wear. But we tend to forget the importance of color and how that actually affects our mood or what we're actually conveying to other individuals. And it's been fun to actually work in color now in my own practice in that regard.
I have a question. Have you noticed there have been times when Jack wants to wear a certain color or a certain material?
I've noticed more like rock star kind of stuff. Like he wants more rock star kind of. I know.
See, that's the attitude. He wants that confidence. He's leaning into himself and so that's really cool. So that's also going to tell us, right, about the embodiment, right, that he wants to wear and be.
Because today it was like, okay, do you want like, we were pressed for time, and normally I don't lay out his clothes, but I was like, all right, let me just give you two options so we don't take too long. And I laid down a cute like adult tee, and then he had a guitar one, and he's like, oh yeah. And then he looked at the shorts and he checked them out. And he's like, no, these, okay, I'll wear these. And I was like, oh, he's making it match. Okay, fantastic.
Awesome.
And and I do find that doing that Sharpe Living, the podcast that we've been doing with the music has helped him in that regard, and that confidence that we did strictly to just help him speak, right? During COVID, we were in lockdown. It was like trying to figure out, okay, so how are we going to do like speech therapy? We're really kind of home, and services were just different. So doing that has also gotten him to know like sentence structure. and know how to engage in conversation, but also to really like pump up that voice and have inflection and get all excited. Yeah, it's been fun to witness that part.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And when we went to the concert, did I tell you that we went to a concert? We went to an Andy Grammer concert because he was adamant. He was telling me since we started listening to Andy Grammer back in October, we were getting ready to move and things were just hectic. And Andy Grammer had just released his Monster album. And I loved the song Magic. It was like, give me more of it. I'm sure of it. Give me all of it. Which is so like my phrase. And Jack was just like, oh, I love this, right? We listened to the whole entire album. We went to the concert and it was just like he wanted to, you could feel like he wanted to be like Andy Grammer, and he was like adamant that he was going to meet Andy.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is so awesome because he could see the vibe, the energy. It filled his soul up. Oh, I love that.
It filled ours too. It was a great, like, first time concert. It was intimate and like he played it like a stadium and it was still intimate.
Oh, that's great memories.
Well, I want to say thank you. Is there anything else that you would like to share for the additional needs community, or that we may have not talked about?
I think that we covered quite a bit, and I am just, it's so beautiful from where I am here to have been a witness of your journey and the strength and the courage and the surrender that you and your husband and Jack, that it's been beautiful to watch from here and amazing. And you know, I don't know if I would have done the same things, right? I don't know how it would have been for myself in your position, right? And it's just so beautiful, and I applaud you and your husband and Jack, and it's been really beautiful and amazing from here. So thank you for all that you do. Thank you.
My goodness. No, thank you for your support. I'm so grateful that we actually did this. I'm grateful that you accepted the invitation, and thank you for helping those moving into this journey to know how to energetically like feel more balanced, because it is an energetic marathon, right? Caretaking is not easy, and yet we need to refill our cups. And you did give some really good pointers, and I'm hoping that it helps at least one person. If we've done that, we've done it, right?
That's right. That's right. We'll tip the scales.
Yeah. So thank you, Laurie. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor, and I'm so grateful for being here today. Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you. All right. For each other. Thank you for joining us on Down to Heal, a space where we don't escape the mess. We meet it with heart, with courage, with curiosity. This podcast is part of a bigger movement, of remembering that healing is relational, that community is sacred medicine, and that we rise by tending to the roots, and that real change begins by tending to what's been ignored for too long. Through Synchronicity and Additional Needs Incorporated, I walk alongside parents, practitioners, and families navigating the spaces where the system falls short and where the soul steps in. If something in this episode spoke to you, let it ripple, share it, sit with it, or simply take a breath. And remember, you're not alone, because this is not just personal. It's collective, it's cultural, it's generational. It's how we build a world that holds all of us. Until next time, stay rooted in truth, stay soft in your heart, and stay down to heal.